Hey guys, welcome back to our project house Casa Cielo. It's been a minute. The last time I left you guys, we were gonna do a small refresh to the pool area, and we ended up completely abandoning that idea and changing our plans and just taking on a full exterior makeover. I think it was where we decided to use our budget because living in Southern California, it makes sense. We use the outside a lot. And there is still some projects in the interior we want to do, but a full exterior makeover was just where we really felt called to start on. So to start the exterior makeover, I hired a landscape designer. I had a pretty clear idea what I wanted to do, but it was kind of putting that into a plan that I really needed help with so that I could find people to do the project and have a good clear-cut set of plans. And so the landscape designer that we hired, they came, walked the property with me, gave a good idea of hardscape and a plant palette and where things would go and drip system, irrigation, and grading. It just was so helpful. And in the end, I was left with some CAD drawings that were so easy to then go get bids from contractors to complete the work. So once I had the plans in hand, I met with contractors. I called and met with 4 total. I think 3 I saw in person and 2 actually gave me bids. The one we chose was a really strong referral from good friends, and the best part about going with them was he was really knowledgeable, had many years of experience, but we also got to see this project at our friend's house in person, and so I was able to see the work that they were going to complete here. That really helped me feel comfortable with choosing a contractor for such a large-scale project. So after that, it was kind of deciding what the budget was going to be and what the scope of work. So it's really interesting. You get this plan for front, back, everything, and you think, okay, cool, let's do it. I want all the things that are pretty and I'm going to see. And really quickly, as you start to line item things and go down, there's a process and an order of operations. So even though you want a pergola and an outdoor kitchen, there's all this stuff that has to go before it, like demo and grading and irrigation and kind of the not fun stuff to spend your money on. But when you're doing a really big project that in the end is going to have a final appearance, these are necessary things. So I think my husband and I both got this reality check of, oh, okay, that's where our budget's going. This is just going to be a phase 1 for what we wanted to spend. But we were able to really compromise on a lot of things and make it, I feel a pretty decent phase 1 that we were everyone was happy in the end. The structural things were done, things that were necessary, but we also have a lot of pretty stuff that we can enjoy. So to start with our phase 1 landscape project and where we started with our contractor was about 5-6 weeks total. We started with demo, and just before they started, we went through all the big trees on the property and decided which ones could we trim, which ones had to go for different reasons. And there was a pear tree, it's an ornamental pear tree, I believe, right in the front of the house. And some suggested to get rid of it, but I usually try to keep mature trees because it's really hard to get trees that big and offering shade already. And this area can use shade, but it was blocking the architecture of the house. And this might be something you already know about, but I didn't know about this. I learned a lot about tree trimming. There's a technique called lacing, and they can go in and take about 20 to 30% of a tree's interior out. I guess it's really good for the health of the tree too, because it gives it room to breathe. And they were able to do this, and it completely opened up to where we get a ton of shade still. But now I can see the architecture of the house. And I think that was the first kickoff to the plan of construction, because then I could see okay, we're saving this tree, but here's what we can take away around it. And quite a bit of demo, and demo really shows you how much space. I will say when we saw this property, one of the biggest oh, that's kind of a bummer, was there wasn't any backyard space. There really wasn't anywhere to hang out. There was a pool and there was a patio. And after demo, we basically gained 3 really large, usable space. And one of those, we're calling it the future garden. It's going to be an area where we can put planter boxes, and it transitions into an area where we were able to put a large area to hang out and have turf, and then a big patio. So demo really opened up these zones, and we wouldn't have been able to do it without having to take out some plants that we lost. Then the not so fun stuff, we did drainage and grading, getting the dirt away from the house and leveling it the other way. There's a really large slope that we run into, so we were able to extend it out and gain a couple feet Irrigation went in. We were able to tap into a lot of the existing irrigation, but also add new irrigation that was just updated, new piping, changed a lot of the sprayers to drip system. Something that was really thrilling to me about the irrigation was that they buried the bubblers. I didn't know this was possible. I don't know how I've gone this long without knowing this, but instead of having that chunky bubblers that stick out a foot in your landscaping, they just put it down in a little green box, and that was like, for someone who's very aesthetically trying to keep things really clean, that was such a game changer. Kind of something that was worth it about getting new irrigation. So after all that, the house was now ready to start adding the fun stuff in. So we started with dropping in trees. We knew we needed a shade tree when we took out kind of an area that had that old pine tree. So I needed to look for a specimen tree. A specimen tree is basically something that a nursery has been growing for anywhere between 5, 10, 15 years. They cost a little bit more money because someone has been growing it for that time, but they give you instant shade. I cannot believe how hard this decision was. I don't know if because of the amount of money it was, I felt like I needed to make the right decision. But something that really helped, my contractor suggested this, is you're not trying to find a tree that has to be okay for 50 years. Like, yes, trees look so different over the lifespan of it, but what do you like in the next 5 to 10 years? Because you don't know how long you're going to be at a property. So I was going on and on about, well, will an olive tree look okay? And what if I get an ash tree and it towers over the house and gets too big? And once I kind of let all that go, we ended up going with a Chinese elm. Price range, look of it, and the area ended up being a good option. I've heard they're a little bit messy, so to be determined on that, but I'm really happy that it gave instant shade, and I really like that it has a branch structure that's kind of fun for kids to climb on, but the biggest thing was that it won't kill the view. You still can see through the tree, and that was a big thing. We were really looking for something that wasn't really dense. Other trees we did about 5 fruit-bearing trees, so we did kind of a citrus row. We did a blood orange, a dwarf lemon, a dwarf lime, and we had a little bit more space, so we ended up adding in a clementine. And then we also threw in an avocado tree. A lot of people in the area have avocado trees, and so our neighbor said we could be an A tree and they're a B. They have multiple avocado trees, so we were able to just plant one on the property, and they're all about 24-inch boxes, so they're already producing and they're good size, and they look really nice. We did have one hiccup during the project, pretty minor considering, but the city stopped by. Nothing we were doing needed a permit. And this is why I'm so thankful we hired a contractor that knew what the heck he was doing. But because we're on a slope, the guys were digging a footer for a wall we were putting in, and this city inspector happened to be at a property below us inspecting a pool that they were putting in, and he just happened to look up and he saw some dirt falling down the hill that didn't make him happy, because there is a storm drain between these properties, and the storm drain is run by the city and they're always trying to keep it clean. And anyways, got a knock on the front door, halted the project, and we then needed to proceed with him to make sure we were doing stuff that was kind of making them happy, making the city happy. I put him in contact with my contractor right away, and they handled it. And it cost us a good like $2,800 extra in kind of slope remedy. But my contractor said, we got somebody that was just really understanding and believed that we were going to do what we said we would do, and it could have been a lot worse. They didn't stop the project. We got no fines, no red tape. So what that added is we were already going to put in hedges along the slope, because we planted them to where eventually they'll get about 20 feet tall, and they'll almost give that like Palm Springs style hedge that will cover the properties below us, but we still can look straight out and see the view. So we did need to net the entire slope with this jute netting. We also needed to put in kind of a temporary fence at the bottom to catch any debris or any dirt as we were digging and planting. And then I had already planned to do some native plants on that hill, just, some native grasses. I did put some Matila poppies in there and some cardamom, just a few native stuff I was going to sprinkle along. So they were okay with that, but we weren't going to do any trees or mulch after kind of talking with them. But then was on to concrete. We had concrete footings poured for all the retaining walls we did, and a fairly large patio. It was, I think the finished number was 14 feet by 20 feet. And we also added on, we ended up demoing the stairs to the gazebo. There's this like gazebo on the property that is super cottagey, not our style, but to kind of demo the whole thing would have left nothing. And to put something there would have been out of budget. So we kind of did a compromise and we decided let's take the stairs away because there were already faulty treks that were kind of falling apart. Put these really cool modern raised concrete steps. And then down the road we can modify the gazebo, we can demo it, we can build a deck, we can do whatever we want once we have the funds towards that. But this was like a good happy medium. So they poured those concrete steps and the patio in addition to the footers. I went with a sandblasted finish. I love this finish. It's kind of new to me. I had done raked before. I've done different concrete, but I really like the way it looks. And I did do a tinted concrete. I'm going to forget the name. I'll put it in the comments below, the name of the concrete color. But it just kind of helped add a little bit of a softness to it instead of that kind of concrete gray that wasn't going to go with the vibe of the design. Then we had masonry work done. This was really exciting to see the hardscape kind of come to life. We did some vertical stack bond walls throughout the property and then kind of a little surprise feature wall. So we did in the front, I had this idea to do kind of like when you're in Palm Springs and you pull up or Palm Springs Hotel and you see a little wall with the address on it. I got this really cool sign made out of metal from Etsy that has our address on it, and we're going to put it on this small low wall that I just did a vertical stack bond. And we also did a low seat wall off the patio that will give us somewhere to sit. It helps block the house below, but also still leave the view and kind of creates a cozy little place to hang out. The block I decided to use is the same block that are in the structural pillars of the house. So tried to take as much existing so that it looks like it was always here. And it was a 4x16, I think it was 4x8x16, or what do they say, 8x16, and then 4-inch high slump block. So I probably would have normally not used a slump block, but because it like cohesively went with the style of the house, I think it just makes it look like it was already here. And we did a vertical stack bond on the walls that covered the patio, the walls that covered the pool equipment. We kind of called them maze walls, and we did vertical stack bond to tie into the others. And then the only thing that we did different was I planned on doing breeze blocks along this kind of retaining wall. And then I came across this hit and miss brickwork, and I thought it had a little bit more of a modern kind of fresh vibe to it. And because there was no breeze block on the property already, I thought this might tie in a little bit better, and I'm really happy I went with it. It was kind of trial and error because my mason had never done it before, so we both were kind of going back and forth doing it, and I love the way it turned out. We did it about 5 feet high, and we did 4-inch spacing. The only complaint I have, and this will get painted, so right now it's still in its raw form, it will get painted the same color as the house, which, surprise, that's what we are talking about later. But the only kind of thing I would change, and this is just from the first time doing it, I would make sure we found solid block. So we were not able to source these same blocks in solid. They all had the core for, building retaining walls. And it's something that I don't like seeing the holes, but it was just kind of how it was, and, progress over perfection in that area. So the project was shaping up pretty good at this point. Everything was kind of moving along. We got the retaining walls, and it was just transplanting a few of those plants that we had left behind. There was kind of this palm that I had left thinking it would look great, and then once you move everything, it kind of looked sad and lonely. So we moved that over by the pool. I kept a couple sago palms that we were able to reuse along the side of the house to kind of pay homage to the 90 sago palms that used to be here. There was a ponytail palm that was super old, very mature, looked great. It was just really close to the house. We moved that. And then we had turf put in. And this area that we put the turf, it made sense to put turf. I guess gophers run crazy out here, and so they destroy a lot of the grass. That every neighbor warned us about that. And then it's kind of a small patch to water and mow. So we thought, you know what, we'll try turf. We haven't tried it before. And, jury's still out if I love it. I think it looks really great in the area. It's really nice to lay on. The kids love it. Like, every time we come over, the kids are just like rolling around. They really enjoy it. And I'm really happy with the quality of turf we got. Something I didn't know, like the seam would show. I heard over time it kind of lessens. Maybe you guys can tell me if you've had experience, if it does. It gained us so much square footage of usable space in the backyard, and that has been kind of one of our favorite spots so far. We are waiting on outdoor ground cover. We're waiting on all the plants because we want to get the house painted. So I was able to reserve some part of the budget because I just felt like the house has to be painted. That's what I envisioned, and so I reserved that part of the budget to get the house painted. So all the house, all the retaining walls, and the gazebo are going to it's no longer a gazebo, we've modified it. So the daybed cabana is gonna get painted. And once all that gets painted, then we can put the kind of focal point curb appeal plants in. Just kind of nice little way to not do it before the painter comes. They're gonna trample your new plants anyways. So waiting on those kind of focal plants and waiting on that ground cover until the house gets painted. In the meantime, because there was so much dirt, rainy season will be here before you know it, we just put some mulch down. So this is mulch from the city. Anytime you turn your greens in, they turn it into mulch, and for a pretty low cost, you can get this dropped off at your property or go pick it up. And so we laid it in that whole kind of garden area where I think future would love to have like pea gravel. But nice pea gravel is very expensive. And so the mulch kind of gives us a little area that it's still walkable and won't turn muddy. And then we added mulch, we had way more than we needed. We ended up getting 2 truckfuls and we did not need that much. So we just kind of sprinkled it everywhere, and we can push it around as needed, but that just at least gave us something walkable for the time being. So now it's kind of our turn. We are done with our landscape contractor, and now it's just kind of I'm playing contractor, getting the last little bits together. I had my plumber come and plumb an outdoor shower, which is so exciting. We were able to tap into the backside of the bathroom that's right by the pool, and lots of stucco repair, but it got hot and cold taps right to the spot I wanted it to, and then I was able to find someone really fast to stucco repair it, at least keep it waterproof until we have a painter. And I got some nice taps. Those will go on once the house is painted. At meeting with painters still. I try to get 2 to 3 quotes. Sometimes the first person I meet, I'm just like, it's so nice just to have somebody that's like competent and I want to go with them. But I try to always get 2 to 3 because you just never know. And right now it's just limited trying to find good people. And then my husband and I took kind of a day to modify the gazebo. There's this cottagey gazebo that is not our vibe at all. But I kind of mentioned to you earlier, taking it down wasn't going to be in the budget at this point, and I didn't want to be left with anything. I really like the view from this gazebo. I really like that it's a nice shady spot. So we just tried to take off the rails and the moldings that make it look really, ornate. And that weather vane had to go, and the rope lighting, like we just kind of stripped it down and then was like, okay, what are we left with? And we were able to also do that on the pillars on the patio. Just kind of strip everything off and say, like, is this going to look modern? Are the lines modern enough? So this is kind of the stage we're at. I ended up finding a really cheap double daybed on Facebook Marketplace, and it fits very snug and perfect in that space. So that one's kind of to be continued, but I'm really happy with how it blends and looks so far, and I think paint is just going to make everything feel so much better. Thanks for watching, guys. It was a lot, but I'm excited to share more as it starts to kind of come to fruition and you can see the design play out. If you guys have any specific questions about anything we did, I'm happy to answer them. Just leave them in the comment below, and I will see you on the next one.